The Pixel 7 Pro, my favorite device of 2022, and the only reason why I stopped using it was because I ran into the Galaxy S23 Ultra because of that better battery life and slightly better performance. But despite all that, I still wanted to go back and see just how much has changed from when I stopped using it, especially considering the fact that the Pixel 7a was released last month, as well as the Pixel Fold and the Pixel Tablet that are going to release next week. Going back to my original review of the Pixel 7 Pro, I really didn't have too many issues with it. Most of my experience was a positive one, and I loved all of the upgrades that they made from the Pixel 6 Pro to the 7 Pro. Like I said earlier, the only thing that made me change to the Galaxy S23 Ultra was because of that longer lasting battery. But after I swapped my SIM card back in the Pixel 7 Pro, I actually ended up liking it a lot more than I did when I first reviewed it. And that's because I noticed a lot of the features that came in handy on the Pixel just didn't exist on the Galaxy S23 Ultra. Things like being able to stop a timer with just using my voice, or being able to answer a phone call with just my voice too. Same thing could be said about using messages and just being able to type those messages with my voice, as well as being able to send those messages too. Google just makes these simple tasks a lot easier to do on your phone than when you use any other device, and that's what you want out of a smartphone, right? You want your phone to do these small minute tasks a lot easier than you could before, and I think Google just excels at that a lot more than maybe your Apple or your Samsung devices. It's not like you can't do any of those things I just mentioned on any of those other phones. Like I said, Google just makes it a lot easier to accomplish, and at a much faster pace too. Like specifically the voice typing on the Galaxy, it isn't as fast as what you get on the Pixel 7 Pro, and that's mostly thanks to the Tensor chip focusing more on computational AI rather than just straight raw power. Battery is also still decent enough. Of course, it doesn't match what you get on an iPhone or even the Galaxy S23 Ultra, but it does get the job done. Usually I'm left with about 20% battery by the end of the day. And as I usually say, that is just average. But if you're the type of person that usually just plugs your phone back into the charger to start up the next day, then you probably wouldn't worry too much about the battery life as much as somebody else who has a much longer day on their hands and probably might need to bring some type of external charger with them, or you're one of those types of people that just can't stand external chargers and you would rather have a device that lasts longer. Performance wise, despite all of the updates that have been released since October, my Pixel runs exactly the same as it did when it first launched, and it was practically perfect. Of course, I do get the occasional stutter here and there when maybe I launch a random app at some random time, but it doesn't happen very often, and most of the time I don't even notice it. The Pixel launcher is still as basic of an Android skin as it can possibly be. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing because on the Pixel launcher, you can kind of find a lot of your settings and a lot of your options a lot easier than you could on something like the Galaxy S23 Ultra and its One UI, where a lot of customization options are hidden within menus. But on the Pixel, you don't really run into that issue. And not only that, but Google's slowly adding a lot of those features that you see on something like One UI, like modifying your clock on your lock screen and even being able to add a depth effect, or well, it's practically a depth effect on the Pixel with their own version they call the cinematic wallpapers. And it actually looks pretty cool, except this time you can add pretty much any wallpaper that you choose to. And the effect will vary depending on what wallpaper you actually choose. So some of them look like they kind of make a difference, but then there are others where you'll actually see more of an effect happening on screen. The cleaner interface actually just works for me, and I much prefer it to the more detailed interface of the S23 Ultra. That's not saying that it's bad. The customization options are out of this world on One UI, but having a cleaner interface sometimes does help things a little bit. One thing I will point out though is that when I bought my device back in October, when I first plugged in the charger into the port from the USB-C port, it did feel a little bit wobbly. Now, it seems like it's wobbling a lot more than it did when I first had it, and sometimes it's interfering with when I'm plugged into something like my car and I'm using Android Auto. During those times, sometimes if I just slightly move it a little bit, it'll kind of knock it out of place. It doesn't happen often, but it is something that I noticed as I started using the Pixel 7 Pro again. Apart from all that, their ecosystem is actually looking quite nice right now. You have the Pixel tablet coming next week, as well as the Pixel Fold, as I was saying earlier. Now, with the Pixel tablet, I'm really interested to see just how much and what they'll do to connect both the Pixel 7 Pro and the Pixel tablet together. So as you guys know, I am very attached to my tablets, and I like my Galaxy Tab S8 Plus, and especially its connectivity between the S23 Ultra and the Galaxy Tab. So I'm really interested to see what Google has in store for connectivity between the Pixel 7 Pro and the Pixel tablet. Now, I'm not expecting them to be or match even the feature set of the Galaxy Tab in any way, shape, or form, because this is their first, official tablet that they've released on the Pixel line. They've had Nexuses before, but this time they're setting it up to be a direct companion to the Pixel 7 Pro instead of something that was more separate. I'm curious to see how it stacks up against the Galaxy Tab S8. Mostly it'll probably be more of a direct competitor to the regular S8 rather than the S8 Plus because of its smaller form factor. But I am interested to see if there are any ways that they'll bring some unique connectivity or some type of unique functionality to the Pixel tablet that is not on any other Android-based tablet. Going back and using the Pixel 7 Pro is just as fun of an experience as when I first used it back in October and later 4 months ago. Honestly, I can almost say, like I said earlier in the video, that I enjoy using it even more. And that's part of the reason why I struggle with going back to the S23 Ultra, despite having the longer battery life and the better performance. It's not like I don't enjoy using the S23 Ultra. It's just that the Pixel has a lot of the stuff that make using a phone more convenient, and that's what I prefer most in a lot of my devices. When I play games on my phone, it's mostly just occasionally, and I don't really do it all that often. So performance or having top performance isn't really one of my biggest concerns. I do appreciate not having to go back and pick up a charger in order to charge my battery at the end of the day, but it's not like I just can't pick up a plug and just plug in my phone. But I will admit, having almost 50% of my battery life at the end of the day has spoiled me quite a bit, but I've also just readjusted to it, and it really hasn't really bothered me all that much since then. The Pixel experience has just had its clutches in me for a little bit, and honestly, I just like using and having all of those Google Assistant features at the palm of my hands anytime I need it. And it's not like the S23 Ultra can't do it, but the Pixel just does it faster. If you're looking for a good premium flagship device, then this phone is most likely going to be for you. It has a much cheaper price point than its competitors, and it offers almost the exact same quality. But the only problem that you're going to run into is the choice between picking up the recently released 7A or the Pixel 7 Pro. So instead of Google kind of competing with other competitors like Samsung and Apple, well, now you have Google kind of sort of competing against itself with the 7A. And that's only because it starts at $499 while the Pixel 7 Pro starts at $899. And to be honest, you're probably going to end up with almost a similar experience between both. And that's mostly because the Tensor 2 is in both phones, as well as the similar options that are available with both of them. And the only differences between the two come from the telephoto lens, the bigger screen, and the battery. All the rest of the changes, like the outside not made of glass and instead is made of polycarbonate, and things like not having wireless power sharing, and most people aren't really concerned too much about those things. So if you're not really concerned about those, then you're probably going to most likely pick up the Pixel 7a. I am interested in the Pixel Fold though, especially considering the fact that I've never had a foldable phone before. I've always wanted to test out the Galaxy Fold, but the price point always scared me off. And now with the Pixel Fold, the price point is scaring me off again, especially being at $1,800. There's only so much money that could go around, and I don't really have it for the Pixel Fold at this moment. Now later on, when maybe a sale drops or the price gets a little bit lower, it might be in the cards. But for now, I'm gonna stick with my Pixel 7 Pro, my Galaxy S23 Ultra, and we'll see how that goes. So for those of you that have had a Pixel 7 Pro or still have it, how is the experience going for you? Do you still like it? Do you plan on keeping it? Are you thinking about trading it in for a Pixel Fold? Leave a comment below. Also, if you like this content or any other content on my channel, make sure to like and subscribe. It'll really help me out a lot. And with all that being said, I will see you guys in the next one, hopefully with a Pixel tablet in hand.